Hello class, my name is Cameron Gentile and today I will be sharing my technology integration plan activity number 3 with everyone. As far as technology and assistive technology go, the technology that I am most familiar with is Apple products. I own a MacBook, I have an iPhone, an iPad, and an Apple TV, but I'm also familiar with programs such as PowerPoint and Word, so I'm also familiar with Microsoft. As far as assistive technology goes, something that I think would be helpful is a recording device. This could help in many ways. Two examples that I can think of is in the brainstorming process. If you just want to get some of your ideas out in the open, you can record your voice. And another way you could use this is I'm currently learning a foreign language, and I think it would be helpful if I could record myself speaking that language and play it back to hear what I need to work on. So I am pursuing a Bachelor of Arts in English with a concentration in 7th through 12th grade teaching. I decided to become an English major because I've always been a very avid reader. I've always loved reading. The two books on the left that you see, The Virgin Suicides and The Glass Castle, are just some books that I read in high school that really inspired me. And the other two books on the right, Of Mice and Men and 1984, are required readings. And I loved reading those books so much that I thought I want to teach those someday. And so I'm thinking I want to teach maybe 11th or 12th grade English because I like the required texts that are taught in those grades. To add on to that, I've also taken classes throughout my college experience so far, such as language and society, modern grammar, advanced nonfiction writing, American literature, and many more classes that have prepared me and given me more knowledge about what I would like to teach. So the picture on the left is a picture of me. As you can see, I really like to wear crazy clothes, which is why I put a picture of a thrift store because I love thrift shopping so much. I just love 80s fashion, 90s fashion. I just love to wear colors and just be a walking rainbow. Some of my other hobbies are I really like to go to concerts. The picture you see on the top left is of a boy band called Brockhampton, and I went and saw them for the second time last week, which was awesome. I had a great time. Some other things I like to do, this is kind of nerdy since I'm only 20 years old, but I love to do puzzles. And I like to go out and do things. I like to go to museums and experience things like that. On the bottom right is a picture of a art exhibit called The Octopus Eats Its Own Leg at the Fort Worth Art Museum that I went to over the summer. That was an awesome experience, and I love to go out and do fun things like that. My philosophy on the use of technology in the classroom, I really would like to welcome technology in the classroom, but I don't want it to control the classroom. The technology that I'm going to use, I want it all to be free. I never want to make a student pay for an application, or I know in some classes, especially in college, you have to pay for access codes, and those can be like hundreds of dollars. And I just want the technology to be free and accessible to all my students. And by accessible, I mean in compliance with Section 508, which we learned about this week. The fonts on the screen should be big enough for students to see. If there's a student that is deaf, there should be subtitles on the videos that we're watching. I just want to make sure that all my students have accommodations that they need and that their education is free. The most important thing to me in regards to utilizing technology as an educator is that my students have good digital etiquette. I'm going to be a English teacher, and if I post a discussion post on my online classroom website, I don't want my students to respond with shortcuts. I expect them to use proper grammar and to have that digital etiquette. technology can be a great tool, but it doesn't need to be used for every assignment. Like I said, I'm going to be an English teacher, and there's just some things that um, aren't appropriate to use technology for. But there are some things I can think of, such as if we're reading a novel, sometimes listening to an audiobook while you follow along can be really helpful for students that are auditory learners. My favorite learning theory is the constructivism theory because I believe it keeps students the most engaged and it provides the most opportunities for students to interact with each other. Some activities that fall under the constructivism theory are debates and group work. I enjoy constructivism because I think that students can create their own learning environment and there's an emphasis on the social aspect of learning. This semester I have learned that there are many different types of teaching methods, but I think that the best method is the student-centered approach. As you can see, the quote says, "Teachers and students play an equally active role in the learning process." I think this is important because the teacher isn't dictating the classroom. The teachers and students can learn from one another through this, and you can measure their progress through various different types of assessments. Some examples of this are just being very clear about how to be successful and how to earn a good grade in your class, and to encourage your students to think deeply about the content that they're learning, and as a class to set goals together at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the year, however your classroom is structured. Campus culture has changed drastically ever since technology was introduced into the classroom for a number of reasons. One of these reasons is because teachers are learning about new technologies from their students most of the time. New social medias, new resources, new technologies, those are going to be discovered by the students before it reaches the teachers. So teachers and students have a lot to learn from one another. Technology has changed education because many schools are now providing iPads or laptops or tablets to their students. When I was in high school, either a sophomore or junior, an iPad was assigned to me, and that was in either 2013 or 2014, so I can imagine that this is being done way more now than it was being done when I was in high school. On top of that, a classroom can be environmentally sound because less paper is being used, and you can even take virtual field trips now. Technology can improve education because it personalizes learning and it is more self-directed. Technology also expands the resources available to students, and kids love using technology such as tablets, and learning on these devices is going to be something that's familiar to students and something that they cling on to. These are some of the technologies that I plan to use in my classroom. These are technologies that I used as an undergraduate, so I think that they will be helpful for my students as well. Kahoot is really helpful in reviewing for tests. It's a really fun game too. It gets competitive. I want to have a classroom website. I think discussions can be helpful, and if I'm not available, students can talk to one another and answer each other's questions. As an English teacher, EasyBib is going to be a very important tool because it's going to teach my students how to cite things properly, but it's going to take the difficulty out of it. YouTube is also a very beneficial tool because as a teacher, I can find videos that relate to the subject that I'm teaching, but my students, on the other hand, can also go home and research videos on YouTube about the same subject and find ones that work better for them. Alright, and these are just my references. Thank you so much for listening to my technology integration plan. Once again, I'm Cameron Gentile, and thank you.